also more than welcome to share it. It's on the Dani Perro Show on Facebook.
Yep.
You want to share it on your account. I did tag you as well, just so you had gotten the request.
Yep.
For it. And then just give me a second so I can scroll down, see where the 30-second countdown is. Where you can see it on our end. Yep, just get situated on your end and then I'm going to put us live. So just 1 second. Yep. Yeah, you're more than welcome to definitely share it. Just put it here. Guys, we're going to be going live. We're going to do a 30-second countdown in a second. All right, so I'm going to start with a 30-second countdown, and we'll come back to start the show. Okay, Eric?
You got it.
All right, talk to you soon. Everyone, today is Tuesday, August 27th, 2024. Welcome to the Dani Perro Show. I'm back finally. I've been on a little vacation break, which is really nice because sometimes I forget about having a vacation for myself. Just getting a chance to just take some time for myself and be like, okay, I enjoy this. And then coming back to my show is something different because I miss doing my show, but then I'm also excited to be off at the same time. So I'm definitely excited to be back. I'm excited that we also got a chance to reschedule with the wonderful producer, Eric Sanicola. Really do appreciate your time today. I know that you're extremely busy being a dad producer for a lot of people.
Pleasure.
So I appreciate the time. You're in California now, so you're on Pacific time?
Yes, correct.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, really excited to have you. So thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It was nice talking to you off air a little bit. Now you'll understand how the show goes. So, so I wanted to start a little bit with yourself because obviously when you're growing up, are you going to be the first one to say, hey, yes, I'm going to be a producer when I get older? I want to know how you first kind of got your hint and your start when you were younger, where your inspiration came from.
Yeah. So, I thought a little about it, and I think a lot of it has to do with the time that I grew up. I think being a young man in the late 90s, early 2000s, if you remember, that was like really quite a peak of the music industry. You had TRL, you had pop music exploding. The music industry had never been so big. And I think on TV, it was glorified. The idea of the producer, it was still this hot shot in the Ferrari, So the music industry was making more money than ever. That was on the commercial side that kind of drew me in. But then also I have a classical musical background. I was very, very good at clarinet in my early years. So I had studied that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a little bit of guitar, a little bit of piano. So I had all the skills, and then I had the allure. And I think that was just like a perfect storm that kind of drew me in at the time. I didn't have any big career plans. So when I went to college, I kind of just was sitting in the guidance counselor's office, and I saw this pamphlet with a microphone on it. And it kind of dawned on me that I could do whatever I wanted for the rest of my life. So I said, you know what, if I'm young, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this first. If it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. But I went for it, and I did this little certificate program, and they got me an internship. And then that got me at one of the bigger studios on Long Island. I met Billy Joel. I met all these stars, and I set goals for myself, and I was able to work my way in that way.
So I wanted to get a little bit back with the classical music industry that you also participated in when you were younger. Were you a huge fan of like classical music? Was it like any like Beethoven type of situation, or was it more of just the instruments?
It was, my mom had I asked my mom how I started the clarinet. She said she had went to some school meeting, and the guy that ran the band said, we're desperate for clarinet players. So she kind of just volunteered me for it. But as it happened, I started playing, and then I guess she saw that I was, I don't know if I was, she saw the excitement or something. She saw something in me where she decided to get me private lessons. And it was actually that private teacher that came in that was telling my mom, he's not normal when it comes to, he's a little accelerated. Like he's picks up on things quick. And, you know,
that's incredible. Wow. At a young age, this is why you have your hands in what you're doing. You're a hands-on person for sure.
Yeah. And I think having the private teacher and that one-on-one and having that encouragement, because every day after the lesson, they would tell me, you know, he says you're really good and blah, blah, blah. So I think that just got me very much into it. And then it was almost like the tortoise and the hare, because then I started getting, you know, when you're young, you get cocky, and now I'm not practicing as much because I just think I'm so much better than people. But you learn as you go. You're like, you know, then you meet somebody better than you.
And then they affect your mood when you're getting older. Now, is this something that you did look into more after college? Because I know you said you had the degree and everything for it, like the experience. So you're using it now in your industry, but would you still look into, do you do music for yourself as well, or just the artist?
No, I'm strict. Well, I mean, every once in a while I'll make something just for myself, but it's very, very, very rare. You know, I've been doing it for 24 years professionally. So it very much is a business for me. But it's something that I love to do. And I always I always thought it was interesting in art class. You know, you go to an art class and they don't just say, draw whatever you want. They'll give you, today, you know, we're going to use the construction paper and we're only going to use these colors and it's got to be an animal, right? So every artist, you know, as you're growing up in art classes, you're getting that concept of like, make art, but make it within these parameters. So I've always been able to see the beauty in that. Like when an artist comes to me with different genres and different ideas, it doesn't water down my interest. It actually makes me more interested because I'm like, okay, now I have to make something great within the scope of these parameters.
Wow. I love that. I think that's incredible. I don't think I've ever heard a producer so excited about that though, too, because I feel like when you get certain type of musicians or artists, everybody has their own mentality, specialty, what they like. Correct. So it's like their genre, like, hey, I want to do a little bit of pop, but I want country, but I want my sound. And then you as a producer be like, okay, what is your sound? You know, so you have to find that within.
And that was my, I think a good producer should identify not as like what the artist is doing is like what you said. They're saying, this is my sound. This is what I'm looking for. Correct. I think as a producer, the type of artist you are is I actually take pride and identify as somebody that will chase your sound, whatever that sound is. I take more pride in being able to chase any sound and do a great job for that artist. That was taught to me very early on by this guy, Jim Annunziato, who took me under his wing at the first studio that I was working at. And yeah, he very much explained, he's like, this isn't about you at all. He's like, you are here to serve the artist. And he always used to say that. And I think that was one of the most valuable lessons, definitely, because I've seen people make mistakes because they forget that. But I've always tried to remember that. This is not about me. This is about the artist. I'm not making what I'm making what I want to make, but within the parameters of what the artist wants. My job is to blow their mind. And I want them to walk away feeling like they got exactly what they wanted. And
something that they were looking for, like with you as a producer.
Yes.
You know, there's so many different ways of that structure, though, for yourself. I think I'm just so
That's
curious.
The beauty of it.
And I think I'm more also just curious as opposed to when you first got your foot in the door for it, because even though you had you had the experience with the musical instruments in your background, getting an idea to internship is obviously going to get your foot in the door. So besides, I'm sure you probably did coffee runs. I think every intern
I did all of it. I did vacuuming. I did coffee runs. I did putting in, you know, we had this huge cathedral ceiling. I remember one of the most harrowing days they had me screwing in light bulbs with this like 50-foot pole. You had to suction because if the light bulb dropped, it was a big bulb. It was going to shatter all over the floor. So it was just nerve wracking. I did a lot of stupid stuff, but
it got you in the door to what you were doing.
Yeah, because I knew. I mean, that was another thing. Like it was explained to me, and again, I got to give credit to my good friend Jim Annunziato, who was one of the first guys there, and he really showed me the ropes. And he was like, it's about listening, you know, figure it out. Don't ever say no, be helpful. So I was just trying to do anything. If they told me to go pick up coffee, pick up lunch, screw in a light bulb, whatever it was, I did. And then what I did was, like, when they were mixing, in the beginning, it was a little unclear whether I was allowed to be in there while they were creating. Sometimes it was obvious I was allowed, but sometimes it was unsure. And if there were some slow days, there would be days that I would make the trek to the studio, and then there wasn't a lot going on. So I decided to, I purchased like a beatbox. It was like a physical beatbox button.
Yeah.
And I set it up in the lobby. This was only obviously when it was sort of empty, but I would set it up in the lobby, and then while nothing was going on, I would make these beats. And that was a good thing to do, because a lot of the writers and producers would walk in and they would hear me doing something and they would go, "Oh, what's that?" You know, so that really opened their mind to, like, "Oh, Eric makes music." And then when people would leave the studio, every once in a while, I would start to make music. And I eventually learned how to use the big consoles. And then I invited my my next door neighbor in, and we wrote a quick song that eventually ended up being tweaked by one of the other writers. And then it made its way to Jennifer Lopez. So that was like my first, like, mind-blowing moment. I was like 19, and Jennifer Lopez ended up singing this demo that we had made. And at the time, you know, if you did a demo and an artist sang that demo at the time,
you made it. That's what it is.
Yeah. As far as the industry was concerned, they needed to get like, the mentality was, buy the guy, you know, start shelling out the money, because if this guy gets this release, you know, the price is going to go really, really high. And there was still a lot of money in the music industry. So they would sign people with this prospect that this was going to happen.
Yeah.
So now, and me being a kid and so optimistic, I thought for sure, I'm like, I'm going to be on the Jennifer Lopez album for sure. Like, she sang it. It's there's the song. Okay. And then last minute, they didn't put it on. But before that, they had already signed me, because they figured, hey, this might come out, sign it. So I ended up getting a position as a producer and as a songwriter, paid position, when I was like 19. I was already working.
Yes, you got your foot in the door, learning more, and everything like that. Okay.
Yeah, it was a little devastating not to make it on the album, but it opened that door and started everything.
Like a jump start into the industry.
Yeah, and it was probably a good lesson to learn right off the bat, because I didn't realize how often that occurs. Like, you hear these albums of these big pop stars and you're thinking, oh, this is what they spent their time doing. No, that's 10 out of 100 that they spent their time doing.
Yeah.
And
I think it's also the fact that, like, they say that they want your song or whatever it is for any producer. And then it's also like, oh, no, you tweak this, you tweak that. Okay, we don't want that song. You know, everything does change. I do have to say.
Yes, and a lot of times, and then you go through the frustration as a producer of going, oh, you know, they changed it, and that's why they didn't want it at the end. They made all these changes.
And then it's like, you were like, oh, what? I'm about to get the credit. I'm getting the credit. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, it's an art form. It is literally an art form.
That's probably how
to navigate the business side, to get a piece of art through the business and to release. That whole process is an art form.
So let's talk a little bit about, as opposed to the song you wrote for Jennifer Lopez. Was it one that she had performed, or she only had performed it probably live in the studio, right? It's not one that is out there.
It had never been released. I did a couple things with Jennifer Lopez. One of them, like, kind of got like this weird bootleg international release. They did give it some sort of like Sony tag. So I think it did get released at some point, but it was such like a rare thing. It was a remix for this song that she did called "I'm Glad," but the original songs that I did, I never had luck with her. I had done maybe 2 or 3 that she sang but never got released. So there's always the chance that she comes out with like some 30th anniversary and maybe it does get released. Yeah.
Or they redo it. Yeah, depending on the voice change. You know,
Yes.
But I still think it's pretty awesome that whether or not you did get a chance to start searching, because this is your dream, this is what you like, and you get a chance to work with those types of people, there's downfalls and there's good positive parts in the relationship with being a producer, as opposed to downfalls is you work with a certain celebrity, as opposed to Jennifer Lopez, and it didn't get picked up, like the song was dropped, but you probably still have like access to the song or whatever if you ever wanted to like listen to it or see it, but you know, you can't do anything with it because it's all
I've thought over the years, I'm like, oh, maybe I could remix it, or, you know, put a new beat under it and try to make it. But actually, with, you know, a lot of the problem with that is so much of writing, you realize, and this is kind of hard for people to wrap their head around, but a lot of writing is actually as trendy as production. So there's certain cadences and certain intervals and certain things that happen in the melody
Like,
that is
yeah.
trendy and hot at the time. And the problem is if you're writing your melodies trendy like that, 10 years later, even the song itself might sound dated, the top line itself. So I felt like there was a little bit of that going on. So I never felt like I could make it work in a modern sense. But like I said, I mean, you get used to it. After 24 years, there's been plenty of close calls that didn't go through. And there were some that I never thought were going to go through that did go through. So you just get used to it.
Well, I think it's also interesting for your type of, job too, is that you get a chance to work with people that you may have never thought that you'd be getting a chance to work with, or people that are in the industry that are slowly building themselves and now they're becoming huge. Because I feel like every day something can happen. You never know you never know who's going to walk in your studio.
Absolutely. And some of my proudest things were definitely some people that were on their way up and had nothing going on. And we did one song and now they have a record deal and a single out. And I think for any producer, I think if you ask any producer, those are the proudest ones because everybody wants the free ride, right? Like everybody wants the Jennifer Lopez hit because
you also
if
want
Jennifer Lopez releases it, you're probably going to get some.
But you also want your name to be on a lot of things too as a producer because you want to put your hand in a lot of projects so you always stay busy but always have something going on, right? That's
yes. The bigger the name you can get on, of course, yes, that helps your credibility. But like I said, there's nothing like breaking a name yourself. And it's like, oh yeah, I did the first single on that. We did an artist at the time. It was a pretty big deal. I mean, it wasn't like a huge number one Hot 100 thing, but it did get like top 20 on alt radio. It was a song called "All the People" by Panama Wedding. He was one of the interns at the original studio.
Oh, wow.
That once I was hired as a songwriter producer, he came in. Was that?
That's on your Spotify playlist.
Yep, Panama Wedding. Yep.
Yeah, I saw that on your account. Yeah. So that's all this.
And he was great. He was great. But he had reached out to me because he remembered me from the studio. He said, I got this idea. I got this song. Maybe you could help me finish it. And I came in and, we did it together and we knocked it out of the park. And the next thing we know, he's signed to Glassnote, who has Childish Gambino. He got a pretty nice record deal there.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really
playing on the radio. So that was,
you did that, right? You jump started their career. So that's definitely really exciting as a producer.
Yeah, I helped and that, like I said, that definitely is a proud moment for me. There was another one on Ultra Record. This guy Jay Brazil, he came in. He didn't have anything going on. He had a very small budget, I remember at the time. And he goes, what's the least, come on. He really whittled me down. We settled on a price. And I said, listen, if this is all you got, we got one shot. Yeah. So I said, let's maybe redo a popular song and we'll see. And we did it. And he ended up getting signed to Ultra Records. And it was a single on Ultra. So definitely those are the proud moments.
So a lot of different things. I'm curious as to what do you feel like your goal in the music industry is?
My goal, I know it's probably really kind of lame to say, but just to find as much success. I want to make great music and I want that music to go as big as possible. And unfortunately, you do have to say this as well, but you want to make money doing it because there's a lot of people that you'd be surprised, have huge songs that didn't make the money. And it happens all the time in the industry. So I always say when you define your goals in this industry, if making money is part of it, make sure you add that to your goal list because just having a song out may not be enough. You have to add in that business goal to it. So, that's my thing. And at this point, after 24 years, I just want to keep it going, work with great artists and, cross your fingers that something breaks through and goes huge.
What type of genres do you work with? Do you only work with like pop? Do you work with country?
I would say, yeah. I mean, right now, I feel like country is pop. So typically when people are hiring me, it's usually, I have done so many different genres, but usually when I'm doing those genres, it's when they're crossing into the mainstream. So like I've done serious EDM stuff, but that's when EDM is crossing into pop. Recently, I've been doing a ton of country because country is, going into pop.
I love country. I understand that completely. I get a lot.
It's going so big. It's getting so big, and actually rightfully so because even me now, like I'm hearing all the different things they're doing production wise, and it is interesting. It got very interesting. So now I completely get it.
I was like, definitely get your foot in the door with country. Even a lot of the independent artists. Many people I had on my show, maybe that aren't even signed, are probably always looking for a producer too. So you can always reach out. But I've had like 20 to 30 people from Nashville. and they make me want to go to Nashville so bad because they talk about it.
Oh yeah, it's just huge. Nashville's going to be a big help to I think a lot of the music industry, because they're really keeping it alive. Nashville and K-pop is another one. There's certain sectors that are just
I remember that was around when I was a little bit younger, and then it wasn't huge in the 2000s. Like you said, the pop was more, and TV was more, but now everything is becoming more digital and computerized. Podcast era, even like Sirius XM, like all the different radio stations, even though that they're not even independent, but I guess it's more of like FM stations are becoming big, and so are internet radio stations. So it's like, everything is just changing. Every single era is changing. And as a producer, how do you feel like you get your chance to keep up with that? Like the style, the different type of, it's every day it's different. So like, do you have a heads up, or do you just
you get used to it? Definitely the trend is definitely the moment you get good at something, like the moment you have it down and you're like, all right, I know how this works. And it could be creatively or business wise.
Yeah.
Like even genres. Like the moment I felt like I had a handle on a genre, I'm like, now I really understand what's going on here. I'm really making great stuff. It's like, all right, now that's gone. We're on to the next. And then you're learning a whole new different set of sounds and rules. And the same thing goes. Yeah, it's just the nature of this business. It is the nature of this business. And I think it's good for life, because I think in life that's happening as well. It's not as obvious, but the music industry will make you move with the times. And what's that book, like where they move the cheese or whatever it is? Like I know there's a book where it's like they put a bunch of mice in a maze. They let the mice get used to finding the cheese, and then at some point they move the cheese. And some of the mice keep coming back. What's that?
Is it a children's book?
No, it's no. Well, no, it's not a children's book. It's like it's like a psychology book almost. The point that basically it was like an experiment, and some of the rats would keep going to the same place expecting the cheese to be there, but the scientists moved the cheese. So they said that the most successful rats were the ones that, as soon as the cheese wasn't there, they went out looking elsewhere. They changed their course. The other ones that were stuck expecting the cheese.
Got it.
Yeah. So I always think of that. Like it works like that in life, and definitely in the music industry.
Oh my gosh, you have different ways to explain this stuff. I've never been told anything about a rat and cheese on my show. But hey, I mean, it's whatever is easier for you to relate with everything. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, it's a pretty famous book. I forget the name of it. I think it's called like Who Moved the Cheese or something. There's a name of the book, I can't remember, but it's a very famous concept that like sometimes people even say, they're like, all right, they moved the cheese again. So when they move the cheese, you gotta go elsewhere. You gotta leave it behind.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about, as opposed to when you first kind of got your door into the industry and some type of the artists that you got a chance to work with. So when you first started working at the studio, this is your studio, or this was where you were interning first?
This was where I was interning. It became sort of my studio in that I was signed there and had access to the rooms almost every day.
Yeah. So you could just have artists come in and schedule time and everything.
Yes,
like that.
and by the end, I was absolutely doing that. By the end, I had pretty much full run of the place. I had my own key, but there were great people there all around.
Yeah. So when you got I was going to say, this was like a little bit like in the beginning, like you have to build the trust with everyone before you obviously.
Yeah. I was hired, and they had had me come in. So they really trusted me, and they were just a great bunch of people. So those were really happy years. And having access to a studio like that does help get artists in, because, they're not just working with you, but they're also working at this legendary Cove City Sound Studios where Billy Joel, records, and all these Sony artists.
Long Island, or was this back in
Glen Cove? Yep, Glen Cove, Long Island, North Shore.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was in New York. Okay, so when you first got a chance to start working there, was there a lot of people that already were scheduled to come in? Were you part of the scheduling? Was that anything to do with you, or was it more of just knowing your schedule of like who would come in next?
No, they had a full schedule. Like there was two owners to the studio. One of them was Rick Wake. One of them was Richie Kanata. Rick Wake had just had Waiting for Tonight by Jennifer Lopez. Mm-hmm. He produced that for Sony, and he was
Yeah, we
Oh,
all
yeah.
know that song.
Oh yeah, that was a smash.
Yeah.
And he had just produced that, so he had a stable of writers and producers when I was there getting the coffee. So they were really at the peak of their game. Love Don't Cost a Thing. He had just actually it was Love Don't Cost a Thing had just come out, so that was his follow up to Waiting for
Oh,
Tonight.
okay,
So,
gotcha. Yes, yes.
yeah, he was with that whole Tommy Mottola regime, and once they finally signed me, yes, I had to kind of work my way into the schedule,
Yeah.
But by then, a lot of his other writers had kind of found their little outside studios. The guys that had written Waiting for Tonight were these two writers, Damon Sharp and Greg Lawson, and they were nice enough to I was assigned to be their engineer, and then while I was their engineer, they would show me how to write and produce, and I learned a lot from them. And then eventually,
okay, yes, he's the multi-Grammy artist or nominee.
yeah, he's a producer as well,
Yes.
And they were they became two of my best friends, and I'm still great friends with Damon, and they really showed me the ropes in those early days. And one day, which is very not common, one day they were doing a song, and really as an engineer, you're not supposed to do this, but I started singing a melody, and they liked it, and they edited it in, and they gave me my first writing credit. So then that's when the bosses started to see my name on songs, and that's why they ended up looking
more. Yeah.
Yeah, so I owe a lot to them.
More doors opened.
Yes.
Because of that. That's awesome. So they kind of helped you with your jumpstart too in the industry.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask, as opposed to when you were writing yourself in the schedule and you had different artists coming in, as just being a producer, that's a lot of hard work depending on whoever's coming in and how they want their music portrayed. So say it was, you could say it was Cascade. I think you had Cascadia.
Oh, Cascada, yeah.
Cascada, yes. So say it was, her and the band per se. Was it like three of them? I don't even remember.
Yeah, Cascada is Cascada is the singer, and then she's got like two producers. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So so a couple of them come in, but it's like the certain mentality of what she wants when it's scheduled. Do you feel like when a person gives you what they want, is it always possible to make it what they want, or is it always going to be tweaked?
In my opinion, it's always possible. And I've heard it all. I've heard people that want very crazy things. When they first say it, you're like, I don't understand where they're going with this.
Yeah.
But I find that if you bear with them and you keep in that mentality of I'm here to please them, that you'll eventually go, oh, I see what they're going for. And so in my opinion, there's a lot of producers that don't have that. A lot of producers say they don't know what they want. Just give it. You do what you know will.
Not to cut you off, but I feel like a lot of producers sometimes do have to take over the part where they don't know what they want. So yeah, that is kind of
yes. But I always ask them.
Yeah.
I always ask them that first. I say, do you want me to take the reins on this, or do you kind of know what you want? I always make sure that I ask them that first, because I like to be very communicative. And if you have questions, if you're not sure about something, tell me. I can fill in the gap. But what do you know you want? If you tell me what you know you want, I'll make sure to always adhere to that. And I don't think there's anything. No, I've never heard an artist say anything that couldn't be achieved.
Because Kendra, as we mentioned, Kendra Erica, my wonderful, great friend, love her very much.
Yeah, sure. I've worked with her, yeah.
She has a lot of amazing visions and dreams in her videos. And I feel like even in her music itself, it definitely is like a manifestation to her of what she wants to put out there. And it's all different, right? We all have dreams and visions of what you can make it be. But I feel like sometimes it seems impossible. And I'm trying to find out if maybe you're that producer in the whole world that makes the impossible possible. Because I've heard many producers situations before, just on the show and the industry and everything, where it's hard for them to do that. Or maybe it's also not a money thing, but it's like it's better for them to take over. Maybe for like
it's just about being detailed and communicative. If actually Kendra a lot of times did one thing that she did, which is great, which I try to do with every artist, is show me the references. Maybe she's saying, here's a song, check out this song, I really love the bass, the way the bass moves in this song, but check out this other song, it kind of has this Middle Eastern thing, I want to put these two together. So in my opinion, we've always had creatively good luck with Kendra, because she's always pretty clear about what she wants. Most artists are. But like I said, if in the event that they're not, it's just important that they say that. It's important that we get that clear, that it's like, you don't have to know exactly what you're going for. Maybe you just want something that sounds great in a professional's opinion. And if that's the case, let me do my thing, right? But as long as we're on the same page, the tragedy would be if you know exactly what you want and then I didn't quite get that. I mistook it as like, oh, you wanted me to do my own thing. Then it's not good, you know. Yes. But as long as you're communicating.
Communication is definitely a big key.
Yes.
All right, we need to talk about some of the people you worked with because we need to know how exciting and fun this was. All right, you want to give us like 2 or 3 people? Like, who did you love working with?
Yeah, sure. So I've worked with Big Time Rush was this boy band that was they had a show on Nickelodeon.
Yep.
That was one of the.
Chris is a huge fan, just so you know. So yeah.
I'm trying to rep them first because I would say, you know,
they're the big ones, yeah.
Yeah, from a music industry perspective, like for me, because I had written a couple of their songs like 100%, and that was the first time that I ever got like 100% release on a major artist. And also, I happened to get in on their project before they were anything. So they, you know, it's paid off wonderful for me. And I owe a lot of my success to them. So that was a great experience.
What songs did you do for them? Did you?
I did a song called Halfway There. I did a song called City Is Ours.
I know that.
Run Wild.
I know that song.
Love Me Again. Elevate, a song called Elevate.
Okay. Yep. I seen them in concert, so I know all those songs.
Oh yeah, I get the videos. I've never seen them in concert, but I get the videos a lot. And I love it. It's so gratifying. So them, we mentioned Cascada. I've worked with Cascada. Who else? Dizzy Rascal. He's a very big rapper in the UK. I did a single with him. One Direction.
Yeah.
Did a single for One Direction. What's that?
How was that? I know this is obviously when they were together, but I'm sure they were like.
Yes, they were together. They had just won X Factor, or they were like one of the finalists on X Factor.
Yeah.
I was signed to Red One at the time, and they were kind of like a no-name act, and they had come in, and one of Red One's other guys did this sketch. He like sketched out some chords on a guitar, and then the top line was written with them and this guy Teddy Sky, who does great top lines.
Okay.
And then they gave me this skeleton sketch, and they said, "Can you make this a record?" So I ended up making it a record. And it ended up being this song called here's where I forget the name of it. Another World. It was called Another World. It was the B-side single in UK. So it charted iTunes. It did its thing, and that was another great experience. Yanni, I've worked with Yanni. I've worked with Mary A. Digby. I still hear her every once in a while. She had this song "Say It Again."
Coco Leo.
Coco Lee.
Oh, sorry, Coco Lee. I thought
that
was
Coco Lee. Yep, huge Asian superstar.
Yeah, she's pretty hard too.
Oh yeah, Fat Joe. We just recently did one with Fat Joe.
Okay, Corbin Blue.
Corbin Blue. Yep.
I know these were all back in the day. Trust me, this is all like 2000 era, but it's still.
I forget them all the time. Like they're, but that's good, right? I mean, that's a good problem to have. So many acts that I can barely remember them all.
It's a good thing to have, only because it's also like not even for your exposure, but it's like if somebody wanted to work with you, they know who you worked with. Yes. You have it listed somewhere. It's on your bio. You don't need to memorize it for the rest of your life.
Well, we were discussing even before the show. I've talked to other writers. This is a phenomenon. A lot of writers, when they get asked about their discog, they're just like, and I said it's probably because as songwriters, we're so trained to don't look backwards, look forwards. What's the next thing we're going,
But also being like a producer in the industry too. I mean, is it hard not to fan guy? Like, how are you professional with that? I feel like even with the situation when I get somebody on my show, I get screamed at before I have them on the show, and I'm told like, you have to be professional. You have to be. You have to. Danielle, you need to relax, and I'm just like, okay, like how? It's really hard.
The journey is this. You originally you are intimidated. Once you start learning the studio, your way around the studio, and you start learning what you're doing. Yes. You realize how many of these artists are smart about their careers in the sense that a lot of these artists, number one, they're playing a different role than you. Their role is to be an artist and a celebrity in a lot of cases. So they're the salesman. They're selling the stuff to a large degree. A lot of them do not step on the professionals. They're kind of, a lot of them have this attitude where it's like, listen, you know what you're doing, do your thing. So I think little by little, I learned that my role was to actually, add value and help the artist. So eventually when they walk in, you don't fanboy because you feel like you're there to kind of to like bake a cake together and I know the recipe, so it's kind of like, look, we're here to do a job. It becomes that.
So I feel like, okay, I'm going to go back to Chris's comment here about Big Time Rush, just so I can get you to explain a little bit more because he's really excited. But getting the opportunity to work with them, even if this just was fairly in the beginning, they're obviously super sweet guys. I'm sure they're always down to work. And I don't know if they play around and do things too, because I feel like they could. They're that type of people, but I'm sure they're very professional.
Well, like from an artist perspective? I mean, from like a producer writer, they're hands-on. They're hands-on. The first album, they didn't give them a lot of freedom. But by the second album, I was in the studio with a few of them. Like the first album, I had written it myself and sent in a demo. The second album and the third album, we actually worked together. And I got to say, they're all talented. They're all good. We even got one of my biggest K-pop hits was this thing. It was called 321 by Shiny. That was a song written with Big Time Rush for Big Time Rush. That the director of the show decided not to add at the last minute. So we ended up pitching it to K-pop and K-pop released it as a single and everything. And that was with Carlos and a few of the guys. And they're talented. So they actually are great. But we all came up together. So there's no intimidation on
Of course. No, it definitely seemed like they're the type of people that would just be like, they know what to do. They have fun with it. But I also feel like they'd be so cool to just sit down and be down to earth talking.
They literally are.
It's like you know you have to do work, but it's like, okay, 3 minutes. You can talk to me, tell me about your day, and then we'll get into business. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. They're like just bros. Like they're just friends. Like they're bros. Like they're down to earth. They're level headed. Very cool.
That's awesome. I love that. I wanted to know, as opposed to how do you manage your free time with your music career? Being a dad, per se.
Yeah. So I like so many, and I know many other writers and producers, we all get a late start when it comes to the family stuff. So I'm like 42. I have like a 2-year-old. Okay. So my first 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So luckily, at this point in my life, I was smart with my money and I still have a lot of things going on. So I do get to enjoy time. It is still a grind, but my wife has really helped me, say, look, be home at this time.
Yeah, to give you a little bit of a schedule. Yeah, of course.
And to separate, to try to disconnect your head, because another problem, one thing that I could say is great, have a separate place to work. When your office is not in your home, that's a big help, because then once you leave, you can't fix it anymore. So you just have to wait till tomorrow. So that helps a lot, because when I was younger, I would be up for days. I mean, it was unhealthy. You'd be up for 36 hours, changing, tweaking, not good.
So now, obviously, you do have, but you sure probably have a little bit of a home studio at home.
No, not at the house I live. So when I moved here, the last time that I moved to LA, because I moved back and forth a couple of times, but the last time I moved, I had originally rented out a small studio space, not music studio, but like a studio apartment. And I was living and working out of there. When I met my wife, I ended up moving in with her, but the rent here was so good that I'm like, I'm going to hold on to it and just use it as a workspace. So that's what I've been doing. And actually it worked out beautifully, because I really needed that. If I was going to, start to become more of a family man, it was a necessity, because so much unhealthiness goes. That's why the music industry is so much for the young, because these young, as a young kid, you can stay up for 36 hours and nothing else in the world matters. But as you get older,
I passed out at 11 o'clock watching a movie.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these kids.
When I was younger.
Yeah. I think as we get older, we thrive on more of a schedule and more balance.
Do you get a chance to also work with people? I know you said like EDM and stuff. Like, you never got a chance to work at Cruella or anything, correct? They're so incredible. You should reach out to them.
Who? Cruella?
Cruella.
Oh, I know them.
Yeah, you should know them. Okay.
I feel like at some point I was talking to them or their A&R about a song, and I
Okay.
can't, like, it was one of those acts that I definitely wanted to get on,
Yeah,
and
because it's
I
just
remember
different.
gunning for it.
Exactly. And it seems like EDM kind of isn't huge unless it's in the club world. Do you know what I mean? Like it now is only in the club world. It used to be like viral, like type of thing. So
Yeah, it has evolved. In my opinion, what it's evolving into, it's this playlist culture
mhm,
where, yes, it's still in the clubs, of course,
mhm.
and it's still played, on boats and on beaches
Yes,
and
yes.
at
Agreed.
stores.
Yeah.
But but definitely there's a whole industry around it. It does very well on Spotify. So like for me, when I'm doing like my own music, I
Mhm.
still stay within that EDM realm because that is still the most advantageous place to um, get put on playlists. And playlists is where you're going to get the streams, and the streams actually does pay off. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's so hard to make money," but actually, if you're getting multiple millions of streams, you should be producing money.
So
So that's kind
with
of
that
where
being said,
EDM.
hopefully you are producing money, correct?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay, good. No, just because I feel like in the industry, in the beginning, when you get your foot in the door, it's really hard. Because they even say for music people, for musicians, it makes them, they get their first check or whatever, and it's kind of disappointing at the first time. But it also depends how much you get per song or penny.
Yeah, a lot of them, like, I would say a large portion is just from new productions and new work that I'm doing.
Okay.
But keep in mind, a lot of that is coming because I have this early establishment in the industry. So if I didn't have all this experience and all these credits, it would be a totally different ball game. And I can't say how I would do. The competition when I started was just not the same as it is today. Today, everybody has a laptop. Everybody's making music. It's very, very competitive.
Yeah.
My strategies would be totally different, but I'm playing the cards that I was dealt. So that means that I do have a track record, and therefore, I have royalties coming in from these songs that were on the radio and on TV. In
Yeah.
addition to, I still do play this streaming game as well, and I have made money in the streaming game as well. It's a
Okay.
totally different game, and in some ways, it's a harder game, and in some ways it's an easier game. But overall, because I'm used to the old industry, I don't find it the easiest. It's you got to team up with a label. I find that the way to do it is if you can get your record to the right label, you give away a big chunk, and then that label gets you on the playlist where you can generate some real money.
Perfect. Perfectly answered. Exactly. Perfectly answered. What is your all-time favorite song and musician, and why?
All time. So, geez.
Yep.
Impossible
I have
question
to
to
stop you.
answer,
You only
right?
have
Because
to
there's different
15 minutes
genres,
left.
different. I always say probably the best song of all time for me, if I had to pick one, just because I
Okay.
have to, I think Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls is one of the best songs ever.
Okay. And
I
why?
just think that song is just the way it's written, the way it's produced, everything about it. I just think is like absolutely perfect.
Does it
So I think,
mean something to you deeper, on like a deeper level?
I mean, I'm sure I was at the age, like that was right in my high school, like senior year, party time.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I have these subconscious memories associated with it. But I just, every time and it's unexpected. I'll hear it a couple of times a year. But when I'm out and I hear it, it's like, it's this combination of just perfection and nostalgia and emotion. It's just everything. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
So I think, like, again, if I had to pick one, it's hard to beat that one. And then artist wise, I always find myself going back to Phil Collins. I think Phil Collins was just amazing.
Incredible. Yes.
So again, tough to choose between, it's impossible.
That's completely different from Phil Collins and Goo Goo Dolls.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I appreciate it all. I appreciate it all. There's even some rap artists that I literally every genre I love, but if you're being asked a question where you got to boil it down to one, you got to pick one.
You have to see what kind of works for you. That's the type of
Yeah.
thing. But I wanted to also say, due to this comment here, my good friend Alan, that tunes into my show all the time as well, such a great supporter for us. As you can tell, even what he says with industry, how the industry changed driven by technology. We were just talking a little bit about this before. I mean, do you feel like as a producer, this is a good way in the field, or is it a bad way?
I think the question is good for who, bad for who, right? Because it's just
You.
a different.
You, producers, anyone in the industry?
I guess.
Or just for you, if you don't want to think for anyone else.
Well, yeah. And when I say for me, I'm kind of thinking of anybody that kind of made their bones in the old industry. So they, you know,
yeah,
a lot of my successes and credits were done with a different. It was done in a different time where things worked differently. So, you know, obviously, and I blame myself to some degree. Could I? You got, man, it's so difficult to answer that question. Let's put it this way. If you're going to play the streaming game, if you're going to play this new technology game, you have to get on it fast and you have to go after it hard. And I think for a lot of the people like me that got a lot of good royalties going and got a lot of good credits and had it really good, it's difficult to find that fire to react the way that a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old kid who's chasing his dreams, he's going to go after that. He's going to go after the streaming. He's going to get on social media. He's going to become, he's going to, work for his 2 million followers on TikTok and all that, which is it's just harder for an established person to make that concession and say, we're going to do it completely different now. I know people that have been doing it for a long time that react very quick. Mm-hmm. My friend Damon is one of them. He reacts very quick and tries to stay on top
sharp, right? Yes, we mentioned.
Yeah. He's very good at that. And then I know other people who are not, and they basically just fade it out. I'm somewhere in between where I don't know if I'm as quick as And
you're still learning, growing in the industry,
Yeah, and there's time, but like I said, that's strictly if you want to play the new game, which is social media and streaming. Again, my having credits and having skill for 24 years, it does put me in a slightly different place than a 17-year-old that's making some beats that's never had anything going. Even if he's incredible, he just has to play a different game. So again, I try to play the cards that I have, and not pretend that I don't have these cards. But definitely, your fan there is absolutely right. Technology is driving and changing all of this very, very rapidly.
And as opposed to different types of situations, it could be great for people and it could be bad for people. Because if somebody doesn't know how to handle it, or it's like
even if you're an extrovert, like extroverts do better now. Like before, there was this thing. I just want to be a behind the scenes guy, right? Yeah. And that was me. I was always like, I just want to be behind the scenes.
Well,
guy.
Not when TikTok and stuff come out. That's all. Yes. Like now you're.
But now it's a totally different game. Now
everybody wants to dance to be viral, right? But then they might not be a great dancer, or they do it comically, and then they could be a comedian. So it's
and it doesn't matter how they do it. It doesn't matter how they do it. As long as they get the followers, I think you have a better chance of having a successful record because you have followers that are unrelated to music. I mean, like you said, you could just be a comedian who has 3 million TikTok followers. If you want to release a song, that song is going to do better than a serious musician who doesn't have the followers. So definitely right now, that is the game that's being played. It could change. Right. It could change in a few years again. But, definitely if you enjoy being in front of the camera and you enjoy making content, you are at an advantage now for sure.
But doesn't it feel a little bit hard for the people that are scared to do digital social media or anything? I mean, they can't jump on that bandwagon like everyone else because they have maybe, social anxiety. Like they don't want to be on screen, but then, hey, they want to be a musician, but then they're scared to sing in front of people. So it's like, either way, it's still hard to,
it's one of those things. Look, when you didn't yet, like if you walked into the studio for the first time and you didn't know how to use any of the equipment, that's going to cause anxiety. You have to learn that. So for these people, you're absolutely right. There is a lot of people complaining about this, and there's a lot of people that are just getting left on the side of the road because they don't want. They're just like, you know what? I want it bad, but I don't want it that bad to have to do that.
100%, exactly.
But the people that want to do that, they're going to do it.
Yes. The other people just fend for themselves.
It's evolve or die. It's just evolution at a certain point. You know what I mean?
It's really sad to think of it like that, but I just want our music industry to still be as strong as it was in the beginning. And I feel like sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But you could say that being a producer in the day now, music's changed 100%, right? It's not even the same with beats anymore. Some things it sounds super repetitive, or sometimes it just doesn't it doesn't have a hook to where it's going to stick in your head. And even you being a producer, I know that's part of your goal, where you have to have the musician get something that's super addicted in our heads so we remember it and purchase it and get it like that, right? That's definitely one of your specialties.
Yes, and that again is a reflection. There is always room for that. Like if you look at the top songs now, they're still well-crafted pop songs, right? That's not going away. But the difference is now you actually can make it. If you make these atmospheric beats, these really artsy atmospheric beats, there is a way to make it. And there are people making it on that type of music.
Like Garage Band or something, right? Or whatever else.
Oh yeah, using any type of technology, but even more so the fact that your song doesn't necessarily have to follow a structure. It doesn't even need vocals. There are people getting millions and millions and millions of streams and making good livings on songs that have no vocals. This was something that we would have never even considered, you know, in the early 2000s. It was all about catchiness and you know, hard hitting and pop and all that.
Well, it was all different type of music genre out there too. Like I think a lot of the music is just different now, depending on the lyrics and the way that people sing it, and auto tune. There's a lot of that.
Well, like pop music in general has gotten extremely fine tuned, and that's something that keeps me coming back. Because I love the evolution where it's like, oh my God, okay, now it's getting this tight. Now they're
it's pretty cool. They do that with the country too. I love it.
Yes, exactly. And that's actually why I enjoy, you know, I never used to listen to country, but now I actually enjoy it because it's like, oh, they're using interesting sounds and getting interesting textures and doing cool stuff.
And the lyrics, it just
Yeah. And remember, that's mainstream, but in today's music industry, it can be all over the board. You could be doing really underground rap, you could be doing ambient beats, and you know, the thing is now you can reach that audience. There is somebody in their room that just likes listening to mellow beats with no vocals, and if you do that really well and you can find those people, there are enough of those people out there on Spotify to make you a living. So it's just a matter of how do you reach them, how do you gather them up, you know, 1 or 10 or 100 at a time. How do you get them all together so that when you release your song, their streams are, you know, that money's going into your pocket so that you could actually have a living doing this. And you know, there are people doing it. It's hard to believe, but they're out there.
Being a producer for yourself in the industry, how do you kind of feel like you're also giving back?
Well, I guess the way I approach it is when a client approaches me, I try to take the project even more seriously than they do. I do not want them wasting their money. I want them to feel like this was an amazing experience, and I want them to remember this for years and years, hopefully their whole life. So I think a lot of times I put more pressure on me than the artist is putting on me, because I take it so seriously, because I take their investment in me so seriously, and I respect music, what it's done for me as a whole. I want to honor it by not throwing together some mindless chords. I try to always give substance to my songs and something long lasting and something of quality, you know, for music in general and for the client, so that there's something, you know, something that will last.
So do you also do it on this, like, I know because you have the studio and everything too, which is your job, but do you also do it on the side for independent artists as well? Or is
I work with independent artists all the time. I work with more independent artists now, just because of the nature of how things are going.
Like because if you can tell, they're all skyrocketing on TikTok. I mean, in the beginning when I had TikTok and Chris 102, I was scouting. I was on there picking every single musician that had the key for the music, and also being professional and showing they want to do it, not just for shits and giggles. Because a lot of them are that. And I know they don't understand that industry because they're young. But it's like, for me, if I want you to be on my show, I want to have a good conversation with you. I don't want, like we were talking about a little bit before, dead air. I don't want a situation where like somebody doesn't know how to talk back at what I say, or I say a big word that confuses them. And it's just like, you know, so, but scouting on TikTok and all the different Instagram, different things like that.
Yeah, I found I did a record, the first record that I got released on a dance label independently, where it was just me. Like I had my artist name is Thundertrack, so I had made like a Thundertracks record, and I wanted it released on a big dance label, and I found the singer just that way. I went on Instagram, scouted, found this girl. She was taking it seriously, like you said. She seemed like she had the chops. She sang it, and it went. So absolutely, I mean. There's such a great pool. Even on my Instagram now, I have a lot of singers, and there is a lot of talent out there.
So let's see if we could do something like this. I have a lot of musicians that I get on the show, and I have a lot of them. They're always creating more and more music. Is there a way we can have them send to you, or you have musicians you can send to us, vice versa?
Of course.
So we can just, help each other grow in the industry. And like
Absolutely.
I said, we have many, I said country artists and stuff too, but all over the world for sure, where you can tell that they love what they're doing. And I think that's another thing why I love my job so much, because when I get a chance to talk to a musician or a producer, I sometimes feel like I'm going to break down crying for how amazing the person is behind the screen. It's something that you can tell that they love doing more than anything. And even though you are a dad, your back end part, this is what you love doing. But obviously you love being a dad more than being a producer, only because you're with your kids and you want them to grow up and, everything like that. So it's different for everyone. But I think that's another reason why I love being a radio show host, because
I could definitely, what I'll do is let me scour, because like I said, I've gone through my Instagram. I was doing these posts and it was attracting really like great artists, great people. Okay. So there's so many in there that are so interesting and so enormously talented. I will go through and I'll get you some names definitely that you should talk to.
Okay.
I think
and Chris, because he's tuning in, he's on here. Well, he'll do the same. I'll have him see. We'll reach out to the artists first just to make sure they're okay with that. And then we'll give you also a list of names too, just to see how we can help each other grow, because I really love watching them succeed and how amazing they are. And even if they already have a manager or anything like that, it's the producing that's 100% different. And we already know the managers of some of them that are so sweet and nice to us, they'd be the same for you. And as long as you're,
I love working with good people. Absolutely.
Yeah. Me too. That. And I think that's another reason why Kendra is the bomb, because she's just so real.
we always say she's one of my favorite clients.
Yeah. So I definitely wanted to say that would be exciting. So maybe we can look into doing that sometime into this year, next year. But I really appreciate your time. I'm sad to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was incredible talking to you. I mean, I wish you so much luck in the industry. I hope to bring a lot more people your way. You can give them the vision and the passion that you see that they have, because a lot of my friends and musicians that we had on the show, we can truly tell that they have a passion for this. And we'd love to help them skyrocket and get further and bigger than they already are. I mean, a lot of them, we do have to also check the followings. That's a big part of it, unfortunately, and making sure their social media is up to date. But everybody has an incredible voice, and you can see something next. I think sometimes, depending on the universe, you can also manifest to see them go somewhere next. So I also like to do that on my show too.
Absolutely. So, well, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm going to get you some great names.
Well, Eric, I really appreciate it, sir. It was amazing meeting you.
Thank you.
You're probably going to get ready to have dinner soon with your family.
Yes.
But I just appreciate your time, and you have our information to reach out. And I say thank you again for being here. And do you have any last minute closing words you want to say?
No, just thank you to you and Christopher. Thank you so much. And I hope it was helpful for anybody listening.
Yeah. And could you want to give out your information where people can find you if they're interested in working with you?
Sure. Yes. My best place is my Instagram. It's Eric Sanicola _producer.
Okay. And your Instagram is the best. Yes. I think I had just followed you on there the other day.
Yeah. I give music industry tips, just general music industry advice. Some of my music is on there, but I'm growing it. And like I said, I got a lot of great followers. And if you need to talk to me, go to me there. Also, I have a website called themusicpond.com. That's another place if you want to get like face-to-face time with me and really go in detail on your own music.
Okay. Or if you get a chance to just like schedule like a video type of thing.
It's like a half hour. I usually go over like whatever the person needs. I try to oblige, but like they might want to play me certain songs, get my opinion on certain songs, ask what the next move that they should be doing is. A lot of times they have questions about, all right, like, have you ever produced in this genre? What do you charge? Sometimes it goes that way, but in general, it's like, I put like a small paywall on there just for people, just to get only the serious people. Cause otherwise everybody's like, for free advice, I'll be doing it all day.
Yeah, of course.
But just to filter out people. And then, yeah, then from there we could take it from there. I have access to, like I said, great music, and even certain promotions where they can get, certain playlists or certain radio stations or MTV. We have access to all that stuff too. Obviously all with the budget, but if the
Oh,
person's ready
most
to
definitely,
go,
of course, yeah, because
yeah,
it's a package deal. I'm sure that you guys
yeah.
would come up with or create, yeah,
But
depending
like I
on.
said, the consult is little to nothing, and I try to be as helpful as possible. Like I don't hold back. Like I'm not like, oh, I'm not going to tell them that because that's too valuable. I really, any questions get answered. So it's really to be as helpful as possible.
I love that. I think that's incredible. Wow. Well, thank you
Yep.
again. I'm glad that we were able to give out your contact information where people can contact you, and maybe work with you as well. So
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dani.
you're very welcome. It was really amazing meeting you. Can't wait to work with you in the meantime as well. And thank you all so much for tuning into the Dani Perro Show. We are live every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a good rest of your night, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye, Dani.
Clear.